Hestia is a very interesting goddess, and we have some examples in this room of good Hestia types. Hestia is the blessing goddess, and she is the goddess who spent the longest in her father Zeus's tummy. Kronos, actually. He swallowed all of his children, by the way, in order for them not to usurp his power, and she was there the very longest. So she learned from her father Kronos about time, but Kronos' time is very linear, very do, whereas Hestia has learned how to work with that. She knows how to make time her own. So with her, we're no longer stuck in the mechanistic way of doing things, but instead we take what we're doing into ourselves and breathe it back out again as a bit of art, as a bit of knowing how to do things with absolute beauty, with spirituality, with perfect timing. And Hestia teaches us that. She's about going inward. And Hestia is also about reclaiming sex as sacred. And it, too, changes from being something masculine to being something loving and beautiful. The same way she does everything. The same way she peels vegetables. Hestia has presence. And she knows how to live in a way that is a blessing to all of us that are around her. She is the hearth fire, the Olympic flame that's carried from Greece. And when we have her, we know how to light up our hearts and to bring blessings into our lives. Another goddess many of you will have heard about in not necessarily a very kind way is Hera. And Hera was Zeus's wife, and she got very unfairly blamed often as being a shrew. This is a really unfair portrayal of Hera, because the history behind it was that her power really was taken away from her, and she was put under Zeus because she was actually a goddess from another culture. And as the patriarchy took over matriarchy, there was a change in power, and Hera was thus underneath Zeus. And a lot of their struggles, not just about his fidelity, which was a very unfair and unfortunate issue, but also about the fact that her rightful power was eliminated from her, and nothing that she was able to do in a queenly way was done quite the same. So really what Hera is about is bringing back power into women's lives in a just and fair way so that there's equality within the relationship in a very deep way. And what this means is Hera gave way too much power to her partner. Hera types are really great at empowering their husbands. They believe in them, they'll do everything to make their lives valuable, and that is a really great thing. But eventually Hera's got to draw that power, which she has immense amounts of, back into herself, reclaim her own agenda, and start bringing herself forward in life. She is an unstoppable force when she gets going. So when Hera women learn how to empower themselves, they can bring change to the society in huge ways. Everything from the banking system to the school system can be absolutely shifted with what Hera can do. And that's what actually balances her relationship. No, Zeus is actually hugely relieved within the relationship if Hera could equalize and stop fighting with him and instead use the power to make their lives balance better. It takes a whole lot of pressure off Zeus as well. So it works really well. Another very mystical goddess whom I really love is Hecate. And Hecate is known as the goddess of witches quite often, but she is the wisdom goddess. She is a goddess whom we can bring into our hearts to learn about things like aging in a beautiful way. She's a crone, and she's extremely wise. This is the goddess who can go from the underworld to the upper world and has no restraints. So think of this in your own lives, to be able to go any place, in any situation, and have the right stuff, to know how to navigate within that terrain. So from job to school to relationship to another culture, to have the confidence inside you and the ability to see clearly in the dark, in the underworld, as she does, in order to navigate that. Learning about Hecate is learning how to reclaim our ancient wisdom. It's eliminating the restrictions in our lives that are often put upon ourselves by ourselves. It's reclaiming the wisdom of getting older and letting a lot of the I think I should expectations dwindle down and being true. Again, she deepens both the Artemis and the Persephone wisdom that they had as youngsters and takes it to a totally different level. And then there's Persephone, and it all begins and ends with Persephone. Persephone is the goddess of creativity. She is who we need to find in order to manifest our biggest gifts. Often what this means within the Goddess Course and with intuitive counseling is that we need to go inside with the help of the courses, etc., and find the internal predator that takes away our light. The goddess Persephone was known as the goddess who was kidnapped by Hades into the underworld and kidnapped. So she went from a situation of light to dark. So when we're taken somewhere like that, against our will, we need to know how to make it work for us. And what that meant in Persephone's world is she needed to learn, with Hecate's help, how to see in the dark. So we need to learn whatever situation we're in, if it's depression, if it's we've moved and we're not happy with the consequences, if we're in a relationship and we're struggling, we need to learn how to put on the candle in the dark, how to read our dreams so that we understand them. We learn how to read symbolism so we understand what that means. We need to learn how to work with our internal archetypes and with external forces so that we can integrate ourselves. And this is part of the Persephone knowledge. When we are able to bring it out of the underworld, we all of a sudden have something that's very authentic to us, and we refine our creativity. When we learn about our predator, that means we learn about the pieces of ourselves that stop ourselves from performing. We can often see that in the outer world. This person stops me, I'm too busy here, I would have only did that if I didn't have children at that time. We can see it in the outer world, but what stops us much more often is what we do to ourselves. So in intuitive counseling and in the work with Persephone, we learn to find out what stops us. That's very deep, hard work. But once we find out what those variables are, we have a chance of negotiating with those pieces of ourselves, of seeing them more clearly, and of integrating so that we can purposefully bring who and what we are out into the world and not be stopped, but instead empowered by all of those forces. It takes a lot of work and a lot of clarity to get to that point, but a lot of what we need is already inside us. It's learning to locate it. And when we figure out, also with Persephone, where some of our polarities are, we start to be able to claim what it is that helps us be responsible for ourselves. And that, too, is a great stepping stone in moving us forward. So the goddesses do not come to be worshipped. They come instead as the carriers of story to teach us what our grandmothers and great-great-grandmothers could have, should have known if they could have told us. They teach you about your nature and to develop each of their gifts by healing their wounds. The intuitive program comes to teach you from many angles about how to heal your wounds and how to work with your own brilliance by finding out how to trust yourself. And we hope, with all the courses at this college, that then what happens is you're able to live with authenticity and clarity. So, thank you.